Hey everyone, how's it going?
Good.
Hi, good. How are you?
Hanging in there. It's this is what I'm doing this year. I've promised myself. I've had it. Um,
Okay. That's a good way to start.
yeah,
I
exactly.
love it.
Look, yeah, I must be. Look at the shirt I'm wearing. I'm a Jets fan. How happy can I possibly be in life? It's I actually first had the film pop up on my radar. I was at the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards, and Jeremy came out to announce the top prize and gave a real good pitch for it. And all of a sudden, I was like, "Holy shit!" I actually didn't realize it was a movie. I thought you were on Broadway or something, and then checked my phone and went, "Oh, I could be watching this movie now." So I very shortly thereafter did. And it's so shocking that this movie wasn't already made. It just feels like a movie you would have seen growing up and like, oh, this is like an incredibly like solid thing that I have seen 17 times because it was just on TV. Like it just feels like a movie that already should have existed. So I'm how did you guys decide it was time to get it made? Because obviously you watch it and you feel like it already should have been in a way.
Well, that's a
I'll let Jeremy jump in, but you must mean the story, the basic premise of the movie feels that way. I don't think the movie itself feels that way, but the premise is like,
The-
wow, yeah, there's something kind of like primal and familiar about it.
yeah, for sure. I don't think what's interesting is I don't think this film is derivative of anything. In fact, it's so out there that when I would pitch it, they would laugh in my face, and that's why it took 15 years. Do you know what I mean? Um, so, but for you to say that means I know what you're saying because I feel that way when I listen to a song that I love. And then I think this has got to be a cover, you know? So, what you're saying is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it feels familiar. And yeah, when I read the script, Sheer adapted it from an Arthur Miller short story that my mother gave me. And when I read the script, I thought, this is too good. I had to go read it again. It just all worked. And it took me over a decade to find the money. And here we are 15 years after I bought the rights. And sometimes it takes this long.
Well, all of that is so crazy because you think about one, it's Arthur Miller, right? So towards the end of his life, you think even just like the worst instincts in the world, people would be buying everything, right? Would just have it. So there's that aspect, how that didn't happen. Then the idea of, wait, this is a true story idea. We have historical fiction of people. There's all these elements. It's you at when people wanted to do almost anything you were willing to do. Like the idea that something about it made it harder on the one hand is weird because just like why does Hollywood not like a good story? But two, it makes it, I imagine for you guys, just all the more of like, well, we're gonna do it. Like I'm just gonna figure out a way to get this done because
Yeah.
you're saying no to something that clearly like people will like when they get it. It's
I think the factor is an indie film that is a period piece is a little spooky right off the bat. And I can't name that many, but they exist. But yeah, a period movie takes a lot of usually it requires a really big budget, and we had years to kind of like figure it out and could figure out really interesting creative solutions. And yeah, and it's interesting. Jeremy and I sort of had opposite experiences, but in different arenas. When he was pitching it to people who would have to put up money because of the period indie idea, it was a no until it was a yes. And for me, when I would tell it to people that they would say, what are you working on or what are you writing? And I would tell them the premise and they'd be like, oh my God, a similar reaction to yours. Like that feels like a thing. It feels like a movie that we want to see it.
Oh yeah, and in execution, you watch it and you go, "How is this not a thing?" Because there's something so relatable about the instincts that Jeremy, your character's battling of just like, yeah, everyone wants to run for the door, right? That's incredibly relatable. Like, I don't want to be in this situation, but also I'm finally being told I'm doing a good job. I'm finally being given treatment I feel like I deserve. We all, whether we like to admit it or not, really have that also. Like it's nice to be given nice things. It's nice to go eat a nice meal. Like, and you all and we all will like ignore the company we're with or eat with someone you wouldn't normally eat. It's just the idea of this is to the nth degree and seeing like kind of elastic band style, how far you can stretch it before it becomes too much is it's an incredibly human premise when you think about the actual actions and the fact that you do allow for so many people to be going, what are you doing? It's incredibly relatable watching it. Even in its specificity, it becomes, I think, more universal than you would even think when you consider the premise. And I'm sure that was not an accident. That's by design by the both of you.
Not an accident at all. I love hearing that because that's what I always feel about it, is that it's a Jewish man. Ultimately, we see a Jewish man versus a German officer, a Nazi, and yet it could be any oppressor and oppressed. Jewish audiences really love the film on a visceral level, but it really transcends that. And yeah, it's funny you said like people want to eat a nice meal. People want their movies to be produced, and people want their careers to be, Harold May was a hungry tap dancer whose parents never fully approved of what he was doing. And he really wanted that kind of success, and he was offered it in the most unlikely of places in Berlin, Germany in 1937.
Yeah, no, I can relate. Parents love film critics. Let me tell you, it's a real good one to bring home at the end of the year. But no, it's true. You watch it. Like my grandfather, was a movie projectionist, so like blue collar worker, like love nice things, but like wouldn't drive a Mercedes just because it was like, no, don't like what that makes me think of.
My
And
dad too, our dad was the same. He
yeah,
wouldn't drive a German car.
Hitler's in the back. Like, okay, that's an interesting premise, but like you watch the movie and it captures, I think, that type of person real well. I think it's such a small scene, but being driven to go to Europe, right? And the parents just, this is a terrible idea. This, how could you do this? Blah blah. And then as soon as they get ready to see them off, it's, I wish you much success. It's negative, negative, negative. Okay, you're leaving. Bye. I love you. Like there's something that's such a lived in moment that I think if you don't have that experience, it bounces off of you. But if you have that experience, you go, oh, the people making this movie know these characters like to the bone. I think it fuels it because you do need to be invested in these people. You do need to care about Harold, even as he's, making your blood boil by like turning the other cheek and looking the other way and figuring out what his line is. And then that's the most human part of it all, I think, is figuring out what's everyone's line and he gets to it last. But I think that's what makes the compelling film. When you play that, how do you sort of figure out what's the amount that feels right for you? Because also it has to be a character you can feel good about, and it's an intense character to play. You're always moving, whether it's the performances or just he's a very like doesn't sit still character. How do you sort of find that and fine tune it so it's not too much or too little for the audience?
I I related to Harold May so much that it was, an actor lives for this moment. To work with this incredible script, to play opposite Robert Carlyle, one of the best actors on the planet, who absolutely disappears in Fugler. He becomes this kind of seductive German character who, as you alluded to before, who doesn't want their work to be noticed? And he notices my work. He comes backstage and he called me a true artist. And it's like that, who doesn't? They're lying to you if they would say, no, I don't want anyone to recognize my work. And tap dancing to this day is not on a lot of people's radar, and yet playing the drums with your feet is very hard. So in 1937, Harold May, my character, he also wants a family, and he doesn't have enough money to have a family. And he wants success and he wants momentum, and this guy can provide all of that. This movie is accessible to everyone and anyone who's alive, because it examines the idea of how much of yourself will you compromise for success. And with Harold, in this particular case, he's willing to risk it all. And I so identified with him in every way, shape, and form, so that for me, it was just the ultimate gift that I gave myself by never giving up. And here we are, and I'm not going to lie to you, man. And I shouldn't say this, but getting this film out there, it's an indie film, and we're a tiny little indie film, and it's the best work of my life. I've done over 80 movies by far. And here we are where people are so emotional after seeing it. Best reviews I've ever gotten. And we're up against the big studios. And they have tons of money, you know, and there's a lot of it's not that easy to get seen, but once it gets seen, we'll be on to something.
Well, that's go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it just has felt a little bit like our lives trying to get the movie out are not a little bit, but a lot like Harold's journey. And it is really, I like hearing Jeremy say it, because I feel it when I watch his performance and working with him. And it was it was one aspect. I fell in love with the short story. It was um it was it was just an incredible pleasure to write it with Josh Salzberg, to adapt it from Miller's story. And what I was looking forward to, um, it was a terrifying idea to make a period movie with four major tap numbers and some solo tap on an indie budget. But I was really excited about the idea of Jeremy stepping into this role, because I felt like it was a range within one role. You can see his range all throughout his movies. It's undeniable, but it was a range within a role that, and had a level of a level of real vulnerability and softness, that I was just excited to have him and have our film share with the world.
Oh yeah, and for it to be a family affair, so when it is successful, obviously in terms of critical praise so far, you're doing pretty well. And as the people see it, I think what you guys said is true. It's hard not to embrace it, because it does speak to all the things you want in a movie, and it doesn't really matter the size of the movie, because Jeremy, like, you've made movies that are bigger that, like, yeah, it's nice to get paid, you have a good time, it can open well, but 5 years, 10 years from now, there's only a couple of things people like to talk about, right? And whatever people respond to is what they respond to. But when it's something that you also can feel strongly about, then it's sort of fulfilling the, if I could do whatever I want, I do this, as opposed to I can do this because it's the next move, the fact that this is such a, like, at its core passion project, and then can leave people with a good feeling, but also a feeling that they watch something real, is, it doesn't come around that often. So I think the support is organic and will be growing. And listen, I see 300 movies a year. The fact that I want to talk about it, the fact that I want to champion it, there's so many easier things you could be doing than getting people to go out of their way to see a movie. So when you care about something, it's worth doing, and you guys care so clearly, deeply about it.
I love it. I love what you're saying. And also, I'll just throw in that when you're doing the one really, really valuable thing that you get from doing an independent movie, and is, especially under these circumstances, um, is you get a lot of creative freedom. So as a director, as a writer director, to be able to have that kind of freedom and collaborate, really take notes from the people I most want to take notes from, um, like Jeremy, and to be able to make the movie you want to make is a really, really beautiful thing, and a rare thing. And it is kind of the trade-off for all of the hard work
Really, yeah,
to get it into the world. Yeah.
it's sink or swim, but, like, yeah, like you said, it's our movie, it's my movie. If it doesn't work, it's the thing we made, and, like, you can live with that. I imagine the situation where someone else has made choices that make it not work. That's the frustrating part, because if only for that I could have done. But the fact that you get to do it your way, and the fact that it works, and it's being responded to in the way it is, and also at the end of the day that you both are happy with it, is I think, honestly, one of the big wins. Is you can look at it and be proud, and know that it's the movie you guys wanted to make, and know that it's the thing you just wanted people to say yes to. And now that they did, it exists, and it exists in a way that you're proud of, and that people are responding to, is incredible.
Bingo.
Well, thank you guys so much for doing this. I look forward to making a big deal about it and making sure people see it.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Sorry, we caught you at the end of the day. I think you're tired and beat up with everything.
Oh, it's everyone wants their stuff done now, and can you also put it out this week? It's everyone is racing for the end of the year. So
It's time of year. But we're really we're grateful you chose us out of the 300 movies that you watch.
It's so many. No, I had such a good time with it, and Jeremy, I love everything. It's great, and I love Welcome to Me. So like, why wouldn't I have done this?
Ah, thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for doing this, guys.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.